Welcome back to the Whiskey Wisdom Podcast, everyone. I am Tyler Y'all, your co-host, along with our constant co-host, Chris Kellum.
What's it?
And today, our guest has spent more than 3 decades learning what leadership looks like when the stakes are real. Jody Fletcher served 30 years in the United States Navy, leading special operations teams in combat environments before rising to Command Master Chief, the Navy's highest enlisted rank. He went on to help lead organization of more than 45,000 people alongside senior military leaders around the world. Today, Jody is an executive coach, professor, and the author of Good Humans Make Great Leaders. His core belief is simple. People's performance is directly connected to how they are treated. And before you can become a great leader, you must first become a good human. Jody, welcome to the Whiskey Wisdom Podcast.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And unironically, or ironically, our whiskey today is Jefferson's Ocean.
There you go.
So Jefferson's, they take it, they do special batches, they put it on ships and just cruise across. They all do different voyages, so they age at different temperatures and different things that happen while it's at sea. So like if it gets hit by like hurricanes or storms or something, the barrels get moved around and jostled more versus sitting still like in a rick house where it's just consistent the whole time.
Yeah.
So the flavors are a little bit different. But typically on the Jeffersons, their Ocean's options, they are a kind of a mix. It's a blend. Mm-hmm. But your nose should be more creme brulee, some tobacco, and sea spray. And then flavor should be caramel, light brown sugar, cinnamon, and some espresso.
I like it.
So, yeah, I just think it's kind of
fitting.
That's kind of
yeah.
fun. Yeah. It's like, look at that.
But here you go. Cheers.
Probably
fellas.
spent more time out on the ocean than our whiskey did.
Cheers. Well, I don't know about that,
I don't know.
Cheers.
gentlemen. Yeah.
You okay, sir? In case you guys didn't realize, Tyler and I have not been together in like 2 months.
Oh, wow.
So our drinking has kind of like,
Yeah. Also, it went down the wrong pipe, and having whiskey go down the wrong hole
That's
is not
not a good thing. Yeah.
That actually is one of the better Jefferson Oceans that I've had.
it's one of the, so this is Voyage 24. I always tell people, like, if you have a bad voyage, just like if you have a bad trip, you should just try a different one or try something different. Because, like, each one of these, like, we got 24, and my wife was like, I love this. And then I had, like, a 26 at one day, and I was like,
Wow.
and they really do have, like, drastically different flavor profiles based on, like, how it was moved.
I think it was like 5 years ago I tried one, and I thought it was a terrible whiskey. And I'm like, I'm never going to have a Jefferson's Ocean ever again. And then I think you brought one on for another
probably- it was
podcast.
this one.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, that makes sense. So I tried it. I'm like, oh, this is actually really good whiskey.
Yeah.
I think it's just really funny how they put basically the same juice inside that barrel, but I guess the voyage does make a difference.
Have you all had Old Poly Road whiskey? It's from Hawaii.
I don't think I have.
My friend owns that company. It's hard to get here because of, shipping it in.
Yeah.
But if you ever get a chance, and I don't have any right now, but next time if I get some, I'll have to.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. Yeah, his distillery is called the Ko'olau Distillery.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's neat. Keep an eye out.
We like trying things from all over.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we are spoiled in the fact that, like, we get to try, like, interesting stuff, but, like, we do, like, blind barrels every quarter just to, like, see, like, oh, hey, there is, like, small distilleries and things that we would typically never get a hands on because we're in North Carolina.
Yep. And that's because I tried to order, so you can order it online, but of course you can't order it here.
Right, yeah.
So I was like, who do I know in South Carolina?
Exactly. Yep. We've had to pull that a few times.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, Tyler gave you a really pretty good introduction.
Yeah, I
That was
appreciate
pretty,
that.
like, broad.
Broads, yeah. So, name's Jody Fletcher, and I joined the military in 1992, 12 days after I turned 18. Oh, wow. Well, I joined before that, obviously, but I shipped off to boot camp 12 days after I turned 18. And it's kind of what I wanted to do. My dad was a corpsman in the Navy, which is a medic, which is what I became. So I knew I wanted to go that route, and I wanted to get into the special operations stuff and just, probably don't have long enough to get into all of that, but ended up doing the Recon corpsman thing when it was in its infancy. And then later we became MARSOC in 2006. So I spent the first 20 plus years in that community, deploying and doing all that kind of stuff, and then became a command master chief, which, as you mentioned in the intro, is, it's the Navy's highest enlisted rank, and you serve as a senior enlisted advisor to generals. So, you made the comment about, I don't know if it was on air or not, but that I probably have more time on ship than the whiskey, and I don't.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm what I refer to as a dirt sailor. So in the Marine Corps is a part of the Navy.
Yeah.
They don't like to admit it, but they are.
Right, yeah.
And the Navy provides medical and a few other things for them. Part of that is the corpsman. And so if you get with the Marines, especially in the Recon side and then later in the MARSOC side, it's a very, very small community.
Right. Yes.
So I spent my entire career with the Marine Corps.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
And anytime I was on the ship, I was literally just with the Marines as cargo going somewhere. And so when people say, oh, you were in the Navy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, I know that the pointy end goes that way, and they're gray. And that's about it. I get lost on the ships all the time, just like the Marines did, be wandering around. But the last part of my career, the last 3 tours, I was a command master chief.
Oh, wow.
And I was working for 2 and 3 star generals. So kind of at that very, very senior level, I guess. And it was interesting because I really, when I was in the Recon community, the MARSOC community, at times worked in teams as small as 3 or 4 people. Mm-hmm. And then the organization that I retired out of had like 40 to 45,000 people. I mean, it's basically all of Camp Lejeune.
Right, yeah.
So you kind of go from that, seeing the micro perspective of leadership and super small teams, all the way to really seeing behind the curtain. Wow. And I feel like that's what, when all this leadership stuff kind of came up, I come back off my last deployment, and I was going to go to PA school. And I became the command master chief at MARSOC, and about a year into it, I was like, wow, I really like doing this. And I didn't anticipate loving that job and that role as much as I did. And so I just stayed in, and that's when I left the community and went to the division and the MEF, which are on the conventional side. Yeah. And, I lost a fair bit of money because I lost all my special pays, but I stayed in just because I loved doing it so much. I was getting paid to, run around with the boss and my counterpart, the command sergeant major, and just see what people were up to, what was going on. And I think I did a little over 29 years. I didn't quite make 30. I was exposed to thousands of different teams and leaders and people. So just kind of, all this stuff became super fascinating for me. And, as I got into writing the book, the impetus was kind of like, I wish there'd been something like that when I was a younger person. This one is specifically kind of geared toward young folks that are aspiring leaders, brand new leaders, or leaders that have never had any formal training. And not sense. That, everybody will get something out of this book, but that's who I kind of wrote this one for. Right. And then I've got 2 other books in my head. We'll see how this one does.
Yeah.
So question, I know like just in the world and in the military, like there's good and bad leadership. And a lot of people get you're staying in, you got to get promoted or you're getting out. So what was that kind of point that you were like, was it, I see really good leaders and I want to be one of those and lead people? Or was I saw a bad person and you were like, they weren't horrible, but I want to be a better example?
That's a great question. And really my answer might disappoint. I don't know how I ended up where I did. I joined because I wanted to do medical stuff and special operations and recon type stuff. And that's what I did. I fell into the leadership thing.
Okay.
100%. And I would regularly sit in my office when I was the old guy behind the desk and look around and think, how did I get here? And I kept waiting for the boss to poke his head in the door and be like, all right, buddy, we figured it out. You got to get out of here. So yeah, you're right. There's good leaders, there's bad leaders, and that's the beauty of the military. It's such a melting pot, and there's such a constant turnover. So when I say I've been exposed to thousands of leaders and teams, it's not hyperbole. Literally, probably even more, because everybody's getting turned over at least every 2 years. True. Yeah. So whether you just came in, the leader came in, like it's constant change. So I've seen a lot of good and bad leadership, and there was nothing that made me stay in other than I was literally just having fun. Good. And once I hit 20, it was always kind of the deal with my wife. As long as I'm still having fun and as long as she and my daughter were like, okay, we're not over it, I would stay in.
Okay.
And honestly, at that 29-year mark, I could have gone to 30 in the position that I was in. We were in COVID and just coming out of it and all that stuff. And they wanted me to stay in and at least apply for this other job, which would have taken me to 32 or 33. And I knew I didn't want that.
I was going to say.
I knew I didn't want that. But I was talking to my wife a lot, and I was like, I don't know, and her answer was always, I'll support you in whatever you want to do, which was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And I said, I know, and I love that, and I appreciate it, but I need more. And she said, I've never seen you this dissatisfied with work. And I think it was because we weren't out seeing people because of COVID.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And so we were just sitting in meetings all day, and that was death for me.
Sitting on teams, sitting
Yeah.
around, yeah.
And not that the work wasn't important, but what filled my soul was really getting out there and seeing everybody. And when we weren't doing that, and I was kind of close to the end, so I knew I was going to get out at 30. And then by leaving when I did, it gave the opportunity for this other guy to apply for the job. And that wasn't the reason, but it was like the cherry on top.
It worked, yeah.
Because if I'd stayed till 30, he wouldn't have been able to even apply for it, just the way the cycle works.
Gotcha.
And again, that wasn't the reason, but it was definitely the cherry on top. And I was just ready to go. So that was the deal, 20, but I just kept going and going and going.
So when you hit 20, were you already, I'm assuming you were a Master Chief by then?
I just picked up and I jumped back into a team. So my 20-year anniversary was on patrol, on deployment in Afghanistan.
Oh, wow. Go figure.
It was wild. And that team, in fact, one of the guys just retired last night, Friday, I went to the party last night, but it was pretty wild because I was the old guy in the team. And just at the time, I think there were maybe 150 of us in the whole Navy. And I jumped back into a team to kind of shuffle everybody to the left because the war was still going pretty heavy. And so guys were like rotating and doing back to back. And if I jumped back in, it kind of pushed everybody to give a little bit of a break.
Breather.
Yeah. And it was, every team I've been in has been amazing, but there's just something special about that team. And I think also because I was way older than everybody else. And so I had a little bit of old man wisdom. And sometimes things that would normally get you, upset or whatever, I was not as upset. It was just a very, very cool team to be in. Yeah, so my 20 years was spent on patrol.
Wow.
Yeah, I know it takes a while, to get there. And I follow a bunch of people in the military because I was not staying in that long. But it was you always hear people, I got to make it to 20.
Yeah.
And then you very rarely hear people go past 20 unless they're in the reserves or something. So I was just curious as to where you were at, which pushed you past that.
I loved what I was doing. Yep. I loved who I was doing it with. I was never if you join the military, you're not doing it for the money, right?
Right.
and not that you can't make a good life with it, right? But it's not corporate.
No.
Right.
And so, yeah, I was just having fun. That's the straight answer is I was just having fun doing what I was doing.
Nice.
The last 10 years after the 20-year mark, is that really where you honed in your leadership skills? Is that kind of where that came from? And then how did that occur?
Again, it probably just, I don't think it was until the last probably 6 or 7 years that I started to deliberately focus on it and say, oh, there's something here. And I started to read more and all that. And then, of course, look at things retrospectively and say, well, what did I learn when I was younger and what mistakes did I make? And that's where I started to kind of coalesce all of that and pay attention to it.
Right.
When I was younger, it's there and you notice it. And I think it's more from a looking up at people you consider mentors or great leaders, to your point, or horrible leaders. And then as I got older and saw behind the curtain, I was able to kind of reflect and say, was that person really a bad leader or was I just young? And 9 times out of 10, they were a bad leader. Yeah. There were probably a couple times over. I was like, okay, I was just a young jerk, at that point, or I was, being young and silly and entitled or whatever. But yeah.
So not being in the military, it seems like there's a pretty big difference between the 2- and 3-star generals and stuff like that. How do they get, what I'm saying is how do they get to that point? Because it seems like every time I talk to someone who is in the military at a high level, they make it sound like it's impossible to get there.
That is once you get into the flag level, the stars, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, that's the pinnacle of all of it. And then within that, you're right. The 1 and 2 stars is kind of like still flag level officers, right? But it's like the junior flag level officers to some degree. And then the 3 and the 4 star is really, there's just very, very few of them.
Right.
Yeah. What was the question exactly? I think I got lost there.
How does someone get to that type of level, and why does it seem like there's such a big break between kind of like the high level that you were versus that high level?
You've got to.
His level is still very high.
Well, no, I get that, but I'm saying like.
Well, they're two different paths.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I completely asked the question wrong. How do you choose the different paths?
Well,
it's like, or why would someone go one way as opposed to another?
Officers come in with a college degree, and that's so you're running that officer track.
Okay.
I came in right out of high school as a young dumb idiot and didn't go to college until later when the military was paying for it, at night and all that kind of stuff. So it's a completely different path.
I see.
Now, at some point, you can jump from the enlisted side to the officer side if you, once I got my degree, I could have easily gone over. It's not what I wanted to do. It's not what I was passionate about. But once you get up to that level, it takes a long time. And for those, 1 through 4 star officers, most of them have been in well over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They're, very, very senior people and very seasoned.
Right.
I will say, from what I've seen is like, there's boards and there's lists of people that are all applying for the same job, and you have to have enough points, enough time in to move up. And then once you get to that top level, everyone's been in for so long.
True.
It's like, what sets you apart? And what have you trained? Because like you could be, I know people, just like with the Command Master Sergeant or Master Chief, you can have that title, but what are you over? Like you could be over just like in corporate, like you're a store manager of like a mall store that only does like $2 million, but then you upgrade and you get promoted to a manager of like a $5 million store, and then you get promoted to like a $10 million store. And those are, yes, they're all considered the same title, but they're drastically different things that you're in charge of and what you're maintaining.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
that
and so
sense.
there's a lot of Master Chiefs, E9s, or just E9s in general. And then to your point, Chris, you kind of start, it's who you're working for, and that's the level. And so working at the 2 and 3 star level, you're within the top, really probably within the top 50 of the whole Navy working at that level. Yeah. There are other Command Master Chiefs that are working at the 04, 05, kind of climbing that. And to be fair, the path that we take out of as corpsmen or sailors that served with Marines, most of us are not going to go to an 05 or 06 Command Master Chief command. I think some are now. I have friends that, one of my buddies retired as a Command Master Chief of a destroyer recently. Yeah, which is really cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that's an 05 or 06 level command. So he didn't get up into, the flag level.
Right.
It's a little more direct route for some of us. So it's not as, and I'm only putting that out because other Command Master Chiefs might be listening to this like, yeah, but he didn't do an 05 command. He went straight to the flag level officer. But it's just because of where we work and our specific skill set, I guess.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot more sense now. Yeah. Okay.
That's what,
I was trying to figure out where these things are going, but okay. Yeah.
I understood what you were going, but the same as like, you could be an area manager for, 5 stores, but they're all doing $2 million. Right. But that guy isn't necessarily strong enough to maintain stores that are doing $15 million stores. So
makes sense.
Yeah. And so once I got on the conventional side, I went to the division first, which falls under the MEF. So I did my tour there, and then I went up to the MEF, and then that's where I retired from.
Okay.
Yeah. And being a senior enlisted advisor, people are like, well, because I'll describe it as a C-suite. Like, oh, so you're like a COO or something? I'm like, no. Imagine there's a blue-collar representative in the C-suite.
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, that makes sense. That's what senior enlisted advisors are. Like, we've come up through the blue-collar side of things, but then you're sitting there with the boss.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. And I think that leads perfectly into like, you've seen kind of what to do and what not to do. And you're working with those people who are helping write the rules and like lead people. And you're able to truly see what makes, like, what's a good human versus like a bad human, and kind of that you can still get great leaders out of both, but like, how do you get an even better leader?
Yes and no. And my opinion, if you're not a good human, you'll never be a great leader, but it's by my definition of being a good human.
Cool.
And the thesis for this book is just because you're a good human doesn't make you a great leader automatically. It's like saying, oh, you're a great nurse, we're going to promote you to surgeon. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
And I see it, and it didn't really dawn on me. In the military, there's just kind of the normal promotion. So you're promoted into leadership based on your performance, your PT scores, like all, a test if you're in the Navy, all this stuff. So it's not as, I guess, subjective maybe as it would be in the corporate side. But I see people all the time, especially in corporate, that are promoted and don't even want to be leaders, or were never provided any opportunity to train. It's a skill set. And when I was writing the book and trying to shop it around and stuff, the hook from my book was for the publishers and stuff was one of the best humans I know is one of the worst leaders I've ever had.
Interesting.
And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that you've got to be a good human to be a great leader. But just because you're a good human doesn't automatically make you a great leader. And I've seen so many cases of that where people are awesome and it makes them fun to hang out with and they care about you. But when it comes to actual leadership skills, because a lot of people, the whole Peter principle, right? You're promoted to your level of incompetence. That level of incompetence is normally the leadership level.
Yeah.
So you're good at doing the things, so we promote you. And now we're like, great, you're in charge of this team of all the people that are doing the things that you were good at, but you've never been trained in leading people. And that's where the failure breaks or starts to happen.
Yeah. I've seen that a lot. And then especially the work that I do now, when we're analyzing other businesses, we see that a lot, where it's typically the salesperson that gets run up the ladder as high as they can go. And then they're like, oh, well, your justification of pay is leadership now. And so they throw them into that position. And now they've kind of shot themselves in the foot twice. So now they have this person who's a really great seller who's no longer selling because they're leading, but they suck at leading and training. So now they're destroying the rest of the people below them. So you kind of have that like double-edged sword that's attacking you there.
And if nobody asked them if they wanted to be a leader, they might, a third aspect is they might be truly unhappy because they didn't want it in the first place.
Right.
And I've seen several cases of that, and the sales leaders are great examples of that. Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like you can sell. Now you lead the sales team. I don't want to do that.
Right.
I just want to keep selling.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, I worked with Tyler years ago, and his mentality in working with Brittany has been like, all right, so when you do something, you want to learn something, you want to read a book, you want to watch a video, or like find a way to learn more to get better. And I feel like there's not as many people who are doing that nowadays. But you were explaining, and I think part of it's because books are just, America is stupid in a lot of cases, but not all the time. But like a lot of people are like, I just don't want to read a book because it's just like formulaic.
Yep.
And because you were talking to me about this beforehand, like kind of describe like your book a little bit so people could be like, oh, I really want to pick this up.
I wrote this book with aspiring leaders, young leaders, and people who haven't been trained before. Again, everybody will get something out of it. So it's written in two parts. The first half of the book, I think it's the first 18 chapters, are all about being a good human and how you define that. It's all about self-awareness, dealing with the voice in your head. How do you make it a co-pilot? But the way I wrote the chapters, Chris, is very short. I don't think there's a chapter in there that's more than 2,500 words. So each chapter can be read in 10 minutes, maybe 15. Yeah. It's written intentionally for all of us that have short attention spans now. And it's also not written to be read straight through. So there's a call to action at the beginning of each chapter, kind of saying, hey, here's what we're going to try to get to, right? Yeah. And then at the end of each chapter, there are questions. And in fact, in the opening, kind of paragraphs, I say, hey, I'm no expert, right? I don't wear a cool corduroy jacket with elbow patches, because a lot of books, in my opinion, are either too scientific, or they're a great article that's been stretched into a book, or they're just kind of boring. And this is written in a way that it's meant to feel like this. we're sitting around, whether it's with coffee or a wine or a whiskey or something like that. Some of the greatest leadership lessons I've ever had came from those types of settings.
Right.
And that's what the book is meant to feel like. So it's written in a very conversational tone because I'm not a serious guy and not, over intelligent or any of that kind of stuff. And that's kind of how I wrote it, so that you just feel like, oh, I just had a great conversation with somebody. Now let me reflect on this. And then the second half of the book is, how do you stack the fundamental leadership skills on top of being a great human? So in the first half, we talk about accountability, say, as an example, for you as a human. Now, how do you apply accountability to leadership? So it's kind of a building block approach, and you could even kind of bounce back and forth. I mean, it doesn't even follow, if you were to skip chapters, it wouldn't necessarily not make sense, I guess.
Okay. A few things I wanted to touch on real quick now that I'm kind of picking it up and going through it. Not to give away the whole book, but just to kind of give a taste. There's 3 chapters I want to go through, but of course, number 1, defining good human. What's your definition of a good human?
Don't kick puppies. Give up your good seat on an airplane so a family can sit together. Don't steal candy from babies. And don't be an ass. So what I mean by that is, don't kick puppies. Don't go out of your way to be malicious or harmful to anyone else. Give up your good seat is obvious, right? If you're going to go out of your way, go out of your way to do something kind for someone else.
Right.
Don't be an ass. Never make assumptions. Always ask the question. Define it before you discuss it. Every rom-com ever written, and I challenge you to find one, starts with horrible communication. It's usually because people are talking about the same word with different definitions. And it happens in so many, confrontations, arguments, whatever you want to call it, in all aspects of our lives and our relationships. We're talking about the exact same word with a different definition. Yep. And you don't even have to agree on the other person's definition. You just have to understand it to be able to discuss it. So always ask, never assume. The only thing you're allowed to assume is positive intent. Right. And I have to practice that when I'm driving. Like, okay, they must be driving to the hospital. Right. Yeah. And then don't steal candy from kids, and don't let other people steal your candy. So our emotions, our trust, all of those things are precious to us. Don't steal that from someone else, and then don't let someone else steal yours. And really what we're talking about there are boundaries. Understand what your boundaries are, understand what the boundaries of other humans are, and then respect both.
I like that. That's really good. Very succinct too. I like it.
I'm a simple creature. I work in analogy and metaphor.
Right. I appreciate that. It's the best way I can understand. And the chapter 17, where it says, why do you want to lead? That's a wonderful question, because there's a lot of people that I meet, especially the people coming out of college and a lot of the young professionals that this podcast hits. That's probably a wonderful question to ask them. So what exactly is that chapter about, and what are you looking for in that type of answer?
Every answer is going to be different. And really, it's just to your point. And that's the thing with everything in the book. A lot of the questions that are asked in there, people have never sat down and really thought, like, what are your core values? Yeah. Why do you want to lead? And it's meant to make you reflect and say, why do I want to lead? Yeah. Because I'm not going to know how to get somewhere if I don't know where I am first. And that's that self-awareness piece. What is it that drives me to want to lead? And again, not everybody wants to lead, and that's okay. But understanding that I do want to be a leader. So that means I'm going kind of this path, right? As I become more technically proficient, I'm also starting to understand, leading people. And then at some point realizing that I will probably no longer be the technical expert anymore. Then my focus is, I want to be the best leader in the room. So you should never be the smartest person in the room as a leader, with the exception of being a leader. Everything else, you should have your experts in that room. And I always think of, and I'm not a big comic book person, but I think of, there's always that classic scene where all the superheroes are sitting around a table. Every one of those superheroes is different. And they're different for the exact right reason, right? If you had a whole bunch of Superman, it's pointless.
They're all going to get knocked out by kryptonite.
That's right. And that's exactly it. So instead, what do you got? You got Wonder Woman, you got Superman, you got Aquaman, you got everybody there because they're all bringing something to the table. That's what makes a great team. The leader is, in my opinion, the expert in that aspect of it. Like, hey, how do we get this thing going? And as I was getting ready to retire from the military, I thought to myself, what would I say I'm good at if somebody asked? And I feel like one thing that I got good at, the more I practiced leadership and the further I got up the food chain, was seeing in the people kind of that, like, what are their superpowers? And what type of team could I create, and bringing like, oh, you know what, Tyler and Chris, if I put them together, they're going to complement each other's strengths. Mm-hmm. So that to me is the difference in leadership, but asking yourself those types of questions. And obviously there's a difference between, and I say it even in the book, the leader that I was at 19 or 20, vastly different than, a dude in his 50s now.
Yeah, sure. And last chapter I want to hit on real quick, and I have a feeling this comes from the corpsman in you. First, do no harm.
Actually, the guy who was the command master chief of the destroyer asked me to be the keynote at their ball. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And I was, this is the way I write keynotes. I will just wait, and it comes to me whenever the muse shows up. Yeah. And I'm not kidding. It was at 4 a.m. and I sat up in the bed and it was there. And I thought of this: first, do no harm. And it was the Hippocratic Oath. Yep. Mm. And, in medicine, especially for physicians, they make them take the Hippocratic Oath. We have one for corpsmen, all that kind of stuff. And it's first, do no harm. And I thought to myself, why do we not instill that in leaders? Yeah. First, do no harm, right? And then at the end of the book, and I share what I kind of call, if you were to create a leadership oath, what would it look like? And I share mine at the end of the book. And it's based on that keynote that I gave. I kind of cleaned it up a little because there were some specific funny jabs in there about him, but I cleaned it up. And that's what I'm asking people to do is, as you discover and determine, how do I want to show up as a human first? And then how do I want to show up as a leader? And then at the end, what would my leadership oath be? What am I committing to as a leader and as a human to serve other people?
This is probably going to be putting you on the spot with trying to choose one attribute of both. Let's say you're hiring someone, maybe at the job that you're at now, and you're hiring another leader. What's one human attribute that you want them to have, and one leadership attribute that you think is important?
It's a great question. I would say the ability to build relationships would be what I'm looking for in a leader. Right. Because leadership is just another form of relationship. Yep. And it's when you understand that, you kind of get it. Yeah. On the leader side, the professional side of it, what I would be looking for is someone who's not afraid to make a call. Mm. Because that's where the human side, and when I think back to the people that I refer to as great humans but not great leaders, it was often because they didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And I will say there's a way to go about that. I hate when people say, oh, it's not personal, it's business. Everything's personal. Yeah. There's emotion attached to everything. But we still have to make decisions based on whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish. A lot of leadership failures that I see are when people let someone get away with something or keep someone on the team that everybody knows shouldn't be on the team. So you're looking for someone who can make those decisions, having worked someone up to that. So, Tyler, if you're not making your numbers and I pull you in to finally make you available for other opportunities, it should not be a surprise to you. If it is, then I failed.
Yeah, because you should be having those conversations and connecting with people on a more regular basis.
That's right, Chris. 100%. And so, but you also have to have that in your head early on, having those challenging conversations. Mm-hmm. Hey, Tyler, you missed your numbers. So that we're working on that, and I'm providing you or creating the environment for you to meet the goals and what we need you to do. But if it comes time that you're not, and one of the stories I share in there in one of the chapters I learned when I was 19 years old. And to this day, it's one of the strongest leadership lessons I ever learned. Yeah. We had to let someone go. Yeah. I had to go to the hospital before I started all this other stuff, right? Like at the time you had to go to boot camp, core school, field med, and then you had to do hospital time. So I was a senior corpsman on a ward. And long story short, there was a guy who, an amazing human, had no aptitude for medicine. And it was to the point where he was actually dangerous. Oh, yeah. And my dad was still in the military at the time, so of course I think I was 18. I might not even been 19. But anyway, called my dad. I'm like, Pops, I don't know what to do. Yeah. And in the military, especially, we see people get pushed. Oh, we'll put him over there. We'll put her over there.
We'll fix it.
We'll fix it. Yeah. And then it becomes someone else's problem. Yeah. And especially in this case, you're talking about healthcare, and that's people's lives. And at the time, we worked on the pediatric ward, so it's children, all this stuff. And I mean, the question my dad said is, what happens, if you pass him along? Well, he's going to hurt someone somewhere. And my dad said, you would own that.
True.
And, not only did we cut him, but we also took his caduce, like his corpsman rating.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. And I was 18, 19 years old, whatever I was. But it taught me such a valuable lesson. And we didn't just get rid of him. There was a plan. And he had worked in the post office down in the hospital before that. Now looking back, I think he was neurodivergent. He was amazing down there because he was great with people and he's very detail oriented in that type of stuff. So we were able to get him re-rated to, back then we had a postal clerk was a rate in the Navy. So there was a plan, but going through the emotion of telling someone, not only are you not going to work here, but we're also taking,
you're not going to be a corpsman at all. You're
that's
gonna
right.
be something different.
And of course there was a, 6-month build up to that. So that all that's in there, but yeah, we'd done all the things.
Right.
But I was 18, 19 years old. Hard thing to do.
Yeah. I learned real fast at that moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. It'd be interesting to know what that guy's up to nowadays.
When I was writing that chapter, and I share that story a lot. I think about it.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to him.
Because it would be interesting, did you do him a huge favor? I would think you did, right? Because maybe he was in this line of work, he was going to hate it, he was going to eventually end up in a bad position later on, and maybe you moved him in the right track that he excelled somewhere else. It'd just be interesting, because that'd be the positive way of taking it, right?
That's right.
There's also a negative way of taking it as well. But it would be interesting to know, I wonder what happened to that guy.
Yeah, I do wonder about it. And, you see it in military schools, people get pushed through. And my buddy was actually much later, was an instructor at that core school, our basic. And he said, literally the words that came out of the head shed's mouth was, we're a pipeline, not a filter. When he was trying to say, hey, this person shouldn't go on and that kind of stuff. So there is that mentality, because I'm sure people are like, well, how did he get through training? It happens. I mean, it happens everywhere, not just in the military.
Exactly.
And that was a good case. And we're dealing with people's lives there and people's children, especially at the hospital that we were working at.
Right.
So, I always find Tyler works with finding people and getting them on the podcast. And I will say at least twice a year, very serendipitous about what's going on with things. Because typically in August, September is when one of us starts 75 Hard. I think this is going to be a good book to kind of read through during that time frame. For all those who want to do it, let us know. Tyler might be doing it again.
Oh, I thought Chris was going to have an announcement. I was excited for a second.
Sorry. It's just the running, because he always does it. And people are like, oh, I always work with people and they're like, it's so hard. And I'm like, I mean, everything's hard, but
it's also
I'm but it's doable.
Right.
I'm like, I didn't think I'd get through basic training because I was a fat body who hadn't run. I couldn't run a mile under 10 minutes. I was like, but it happened.
Yeah.
You just have to do it. But I think it's serendipitous because this is a good book that's come out at a good time, because a lot of companies are doing their leadership summits to end the year. And I think the people who are listening to the podcast, this is a good book for you guys to read and then suggest. But question for you, because you get to do all the fun stuff outside of the military now. What does success look like for you?
Right now, success for me is defined as finishing the second half with a smile on my face.
Okay.
So I'll be 52 soon on that, downside of life, right? And I read it somewhere and I was like, that's it. That's my goal, right? Is to do things that fill my soul, to spend as much time with family as I can, doing the fun things, but really just to, and I know it sounds cheesy and silly, but for 30 years, and Chris, you were in the military, so you're kind of, I always joke and say you're in a cult. They tell you where to go, they tell you what to do, they tell you how to dress, they tell you when to eat, and not that there's no freedom in the military. I mean, there is, of course, but it's nice to be on the outside. And I'm 5 years retired now from the military. Nice. And even taking this full-time role that I'm in now, the opportunity presented itself, and I love the company. And the thought of being around young people again really energizes me. I love it because I love just understanding what's coming up with the next generation, what they value, and the creativity and all that kind of stuff, and then being a part of a team. So I feel like it's an easy, kind of cheesy answer, but just doing things that make me happy, that fulfill me, that fill my soul. Yeah. That's how I look at success. My daughter's heading off to grad school in August, so a couple more years, and then she'll be fully launched into adulthood and all that good stuff. But for the most part, my wife and I are empty nesters, and we're traveling, and I still work because I enjoy it. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a cop out of an answer, but it's the real answer.
So one thing I think is interesting is with the podcast, Tyler originally started with this question that we always end with. Then I just randomly was like, I'm going to ask this question. But the reason I ask this question is because I like to get other people's points of view. Because like you said, the only thing you want to assume is positive intent. And if I have more people's concepts of like what success and like things about them in the world, it allows me to be more open-minded to positiveness or positivity. I guess. Positivity.
Yeah, we know what you meant.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, even if it's just like, success is, having every weekend off or, taking more vacations. I think that's it gives me like, okay, I didn't think of that as a success meter, should that be on my list of things?
Well, and especially as someone who's married, I would say figure out how you define success and then ask your spouse how they define success and then compare the answers and have that discussion. And that's a great example. The way you define success, it's the same word, but it might be different.
Yeah.
And then you can have that conversation and co-create a definition of success as a family. Mm-hmm. Because, for a while I was working really hard when I first got out, and my wife kind of pulled my choke chain a little bit and said, hey, you're not happy right now. And as the person who we've been together 31 years and she knows me and knows exactly kind of, she just right at the right moment. And it kind of opened my eyes and I was like, yeah, I'm not, not in what I want to be doing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just to kind of play off of that too. My wife and I have been married we celebrated our 10-year anniversary a week ago.
Congrats.
Yeah. Thank you. And our definitions of success have changed over the years, right. And having kids and everything else and being in different careers and whatnot too. So I'm glad you brought that up because that was a conversation we had to have probably close to a year ago. It's like, okay, now we have 2 kids. Like, what exactly is our definition of success now? And it can't be as short-term as what they used to be. So at one point I was like, we want a dog. Like that was our definition of success, right? It was like, we want a house. That's our definition of success. And now it's like, okay, what do these like real life, long-term success goals look like? And how does that build with our family and whatnot?
And that's a great point, Tyler. Like it does probably need to be short gates because when our daughter was born, it was healthy, happy child. And then, it was that she's happy and feels fulfilled and is learning. And then as we just kind of keep going, and now for her, I hope that she launches well and gets the career that she's after and all those things and healthy, happy relationships. And, but then I don't have as much influence as I did when she was in the house. So that changes my definition of success because at that point, all you can do is hope that you've raised your children in a way that they're off making decisions that they own and are good for them. Yeah. And realizing that that's not always the way I would have done something. Yeah. And that's okay. And that I talk about that a lot in the book too, controlling what you truly or realizing what you truly have control over. Mm-hmm. Because, if you've got young ones, you don't even have control over them, really. No. I mean, you can lock them in a room, but they could still climb out a window or whatever. Yeah. And so that's a big thing where I see people getting tripped up all the time is trying to control other people. Mm-hmm. And the reality is you can't. The only thing you can do is influence and inspire.
Yeah. My first, real job was working at Hillsburg Diamonds in the mall. And they actually had a really good training program, and they even had a better leadership program, believe it or not, out of all places that I've worked. And one of the things that they were really big on was controlling the controllables. And there's a full quote to this. I don't remember the small version of it, but it's basically focus on the donut and not the hole. It's like, so yeah, you could look at your donut and just look why is there not the rest of the donut in there? It's but look at everything else around it. It was a really silly, cheesy
I love
way
it.
of
No,
looking
it's
at
great.
it. But But I don't know, it always kind of stuck with me. And then I posted it one time and someone was like, I like Boston cream, and there's no hole in that.
But I think what they're getting at
There's
too
a hole
is
in
like,
the side. Just
that is true.
yeah, there you go, right? It's got to be filled somehow.
Right.
But what's missing versus what do you have?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's great.
And since we were talking about children a second ago, if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
Stay optimistic and realize there's a difference between positivity and optimism, right? Optimism is realizing that bad things are going to happen, and how you choose to deal with that and handle it is either going to get you through it. Well, you're going to get through it one way or another. Right. In medicine, we used to always say all bleeding stops eventually, right? Like you're going to get through it. But if you look at it optimistically, life just in general, when you do hit those rough patches or hit those low points, instead of kind of playing the woe is me card, you're looking at, okay, this sucks, but how can I get through it? I had a fantastic career. I have a fantastic marriage. You know, I feel so blessed and all of that, but none of it was without low points. Right. You know, everything, family, career, all of it, you're going to bounce off the bottom every now and then. Mm-hmm. So just realize that that's not permanent. I see that a lot. I feel like recently, and I heard some statistics that there's been more, antidepressants ever prescribed and all that kind of stuff, and all the mental health that everybody's dealing with nowadays. If you can kind of at least ground yourself in, okay, we can get through this. Mm-hmm. There's always a way. Right. Bad things happen to everybody. And there's a chapter in there about that, right? Like bad things are going to happen. What you choose to do from that moment is what will determine how you get out of it.
That's great.
Because we're talking about people should read this book. Where can they find it?
It's everywhere. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble and all that. I'm not in bookstores unless they buy them.
Okay. Okay.
But it's on their website.
Yeah. So Barnes & Noble, Amazon, book.org, I think is the other one, bookshop.org, all the places. And then my website is goodhumangreatleader.com. Okay. And it's not on there yet, but by the time this episode comes out, I'll have the links on there where you can order it. And there's hardcover, softcover, and ebook from Amazon on Kindle or whatever it is. Yeah. But all the places. And it will be in some bookstores. It's just a matter of, it's not mass.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But
that makes sense.
I've done enough research to know like what makes the most sense, works for you. Like some bookstores are like, okay, we like this. It's going to fill up this much space on the bookshelf, so like we can buy this amount of books. And others are like, we don't really want to buy it. And I know some people who are just self-published, so they're like, hey, just go to the website, post it. So I want to help you out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And it's interesting. It would be a whole podcast in and of itself, like the publishing side of things and why they always talk about starving artists. Like it's real.
Yeah. I believe it. It's
real. The amount of money you make off each individual copy is probably way less than you would even imagine.
Yeah. And it's frustrating based on like the price of them too. Because I'm like, oh, this book is, $15. The artist or like the writer should get at least a third of that. And they're like, you're funny.
Yeah, not even.
Right.
And then if you get into the bookstores, they have a return policy. So if they don't sell the book, then they charge you back for the book and destroy it. So it's not even like, we're just going to
send it back to you.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, but that's a whole other story. Yeah.
Wow.
But I didn't write it. I mean, the chances of me making the money back on the book are slim to none. I didn't write it for that. I wrote it because I wish there had been something like that when I was a young leader.
Oh, for sure. And like I said, Tyler looks at analytics, and I know there's a lot of like new businesses out there, a lot of like young leaders and kids getting out of school who read the same book that everybody else does. Yep. And I'm like, I can only see this book recommended so many times before I'm like, you got to try something different. Because not just like we mentioned, everyone can't learn the exact same way because everything happens differently. So,
and that's, I think I even say in the book, and my book's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. If you don't like casual with like some little, dad humor type jokes and sarcasm and all that stuff, it's not for you. Yeah. When I'm doing workshops or keynotes and stuff like that, well, more to the workshops where I'll get the feedback. Usually everybody loves it. Every once in a while, there'll be one or two people in the audience who are like, this dude sucked. And I'm like, it's okay. It's just my style is not for you.
Yeah.
And I do want to say there's military stories in there, but not many. And the ones that are in there are funny. They're not tough guy war stories, none of that. It's all just, like fun stories.
It's more about being a good human and a great leader.
Yeah, and that's honestly one of the best compliments I ever get. And I love my time in the military. I'm not saying this, but when people meet me, they're like, "You were in the military?" And I was like, "Yeah, 30 years." And they're like, "Oh my God." Because the whole piece of that is you're the same person inside. And that's really what I want people to get. It doesn't matter what you're wearing, what you're doing. It's who you are inside that comes out.
I like it. It's good. I like it.
So Tyler, you're going to post all of his thingies, all of his tags on our Instagram and socials. You guys, thank you for listening. Thank you, Jody, for spending some time with us today.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I will.
absolutely.
The one ask I have is if you do get the book, please, please, please leave an honest review.
Okay.
Because as I've learned through doing all this, that's the thing that will get you in the algorithm on Amazon and get it out to more people than just family and friends. Okay. So please leave a review if you do get it. An honest review too. They always say, reviews are not for the author, they're for other people that are wanting to buy the book.
True.
I like it. You're not wrong.
Yeah. Smart.
So like our podcast, we'd love you to like, comment, share, subscribe to the podcast. And then, if you read the book, leave a review. It definitely helps get the word out there. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Yeah. Appreciate y'all having me. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.